Yo, this is Guab, and you know the drill. This is the definitive late-age Dominion 6 pre-release tier list. Some of you pointed out mistakes I made in my EA tier list, and I appreciate that, but I regret to inform you, you're wrong. That is what definitive means. No, I kid. With just a week till release, I know I'm starved for content. So, here's me trying to fix that. Without further ado, here's my predictions for the late age. Abysia was B, still B. They have a couple things going for them. I believe Assassinate expansion will be better as normal expansion is harder. But the two biggest changes for them is Fire becoming better as a path, and their assassins can now spam summon salamanders, which will probably be quite good for assassinations, especially with elemental spam and swarm being worse. All this, though, is not enough to take them up a tier, though maybe Warbred, a Dark Vision Berserker, will tear up the cave layer and bring them up a tier. Agartha was C tier, is now B tier. All of their troops have Dark Vision 50%, and they have a wonderful Recruit Anywhere Spirit Sight Sacred. In addition, their Heavy Cavalry Cave Knights will be quite interesting with the cav changes. Lucid says it's one of the biggest upgrades to from 5 to 6. Lastly, with the nerfs to piercing damage and larger battle sizes, their low precision but high damage crossbows might just be the best in the age, as larger battles means more targets to hit, and nerf precision means your base damage is more important, and so, hey, they're still going to be able to go through everyone's armor, so going to be quite good. Lastly, with magic weapons being less ubiquitous, their umbral summons will be even more efficient. Overall, a number of their tools have gotten better, but they still lack blood, and it remains to be seen if anything can take them to the next level. Arco was B, still B. You know, maybe with the infrastructure cost changes, their ability to convert temples is going to help carry them. But I doubt it. At least their great mystics are now even better, with the fire and water paths being better and Evos being even better. They also have some decent heavy cav with high map move, as well as elephants. Sadly, they still have the weakness of being humans without blood, leading to a fall off in the late game. Still, overall, decent, keeping them in the B tier. Atlantis was B. Now it's A for Atlantis. They have the best scales troops, and they've gotten even better. With temperature scaling up to 5, their ice protection troops will be even tougher in cold. In addition, Blizzard being added means their ice protection can be even better for battles, and you'll be like, oh, well, heat scales up to 5 too. Well, they can always just use their non-ice protection dudes for fighting in heat if anyone gets their heat up that high. Also, their troops have dark vision, which will be great for the cave layer. Their weakness has always been their magic, and that has not really changed. But hey, water is better, and if the scales changes are going to help anyone, it's going to be Atlantis. Plus, they have the heavy damage required for busting through the high prot knights. B is for Bogaroos. Both in 5 and 6, they still have excellent mages and terrible Recruit Anywhere Sacreds, and overall weak troops for the late age. However, they have some pretty amazing heavy cav, which will probably be even better in Dom 6. Still, with non-national blood nerfs and losing cross communions, their heavy cav will have to pull a lot of weight to stop them from slipping a tier. Thankfully, I think it can. B is for Caleb, both in 5 and 6. They're the only late-age nation without access to communions, and they're losing access to Wailing Winds. However, they still have amazing troops and Thunderstrike / Parting of the Soulcasters. Also, the addition of Blizzards can bring their troops up to 20 prot. But if Blizzard is unable to be cast in heat, then that would kind of suck. But, you know, still good for them. The Mammoths will be interesting, and I've heard that Sacred Archers have quite a bit of options now with the new weapon blesses. Ultimately, I think there will be a little bit worse than in Dom 5 due to losing air Ellies, despite the scales buff, but it's probably not enough to drop them a tier. Also, they're mages that give resources. If you find indie heavy cav provinces, you can use those mages to mass produce those heavy cav, which will be great. Ultimately, their final placing will depend on how common weapon blesses are to counter your new Fog Warrior spam. C'tis was D, and I would have said Satis is still D, as a terrible nation with all right mages but bad troops. But actually, Satis has gotten a rework, and we don't actually know too much information about the Satis rework, but we've heard that they're quite good. I'm going to go ahead and leave them in the B tier for now. Their Poisoner Assassin's really cool. Their Sauromancer is really cool. If they keep those two mages and just get better troops, maybe their snakes get better built-in prot, or, whatever, then Satis could be even better than B. If it's just more of the same, then they'll stay in the lower half of the tier list. But I really look forward to seeing what happens, especially if they get more poison options, due to poison now lowering stats. Erythrea was B, still B. They have only one recruitable inland mage. Luckily, it's a great one. They have great mages, decent troops, which suffer from having to be recruited either in the ocean or coastal or, other stuff. With the addition of caves, there's actually going to be a lower percentage of coastal provinces in comparison to before, but I really don't think that that's going to be a problem for them, and they're going to be fine due to the buffs to the water and fire pass. So overall, they're going to go ahead and stay in the B tier. Gath was A. Now it's S for Smash. They're going to be hot fire, mark my words. They have great mages. They can research in Drain just fine for extra bless points. But they also have decent Recruit Anywhere Sacreds and Hellbless Sacreds in addition to Sacred Demons, just when anti-demon spells have gotten worse. If that doesn't fit your fancy, you can still play Scales Gaths with amazing troops. I'm going to try to convince you why Benjamite Slingers is now one of the best troops in the game. So Slingers are decent now. They will, for Strength 10 dude, they're going to be doing 2 more damage. But with the buffs to Blunt, they will do an additional 25% damage to the head before Prot. So if you put this together, they're actually going to be able to get pretty well through like 15 Prot Sacreds, as long as you're hitting from range. And because guess what? Ranged dudes hit in the head more often. Put this together with their already dual-wielding nature, they're going to be so killy. And they're only 11 gold. And they just got even more killy. Altogether, this makes a pretty package for an already strong nation. Though, the removal of cross communions will hurt, as it was the easiest way to add fire or earth to your communions. But you can always just web spam if needed. Gath definitely deserves to be in the S tier. Jomon was B. It's loosely still B. I was debating about lowering them to C, but we're going to go ahead and leave them B. Like always, if you get underwater, you're going to be goated with access to the impressive Shark Warriors and absolutely crazy strong Ryujin, with their water pass getting even better. Their summon troops, as far as I'm aware, are not buffed, so that is unfortunate, though their death summons might be better with the demon nerfs. The biggest strength, in my opinion, are their national spell signs. With buffs to low-level evos, their monks will be great and an even more interesting option. They'd be even better, though, if more of their mages were sacred. And the reason I'm going to go ahead and leave them in the B tier is a lot of nations are getting better, and B tier is going to be pretty crowded. But I don't think that they're bad enough to lower tier. And the reduction, I believe the meta is going to shift from a lot of crossbow to a lot more knights running around, and so I think that'll be good for them. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and leave them in the B tier. Next up, we have Lemuria, was S, still S. What the ever-loving fuck? If there was an S+, Lemuria would be it. Anti-Lemuria blesses got even more expensive at the same time that anti-Undead spells are nerfed. Lemuria will need to be hotfix nerfed, mark my words. Though maybe increased infrastructure costs will nerf them more than I think. I'm hoping so. Man was C. I debated a lot with myself about where Man should end up. For a little bit, I even had them down a tier. Then I had them up a tier. And the reason is that crossbows with nerfs to piercing damage going to be a little bit worse. Knights and crossbows, pretty even matchup. But crossbows hard counter heavy infantry and light infantry. And, crossbows rule the late age. With the nerfs to piercing, knights might even be better into crossbows than they are currently. And, Man's whole shtick is crossbows. But, they're pretty good in melee. Their wardens actually absolutely slap in melee. And according to Lucid, they have one of the best heavy calves in the late age. So, like, I can't see that being an overall nerf for them. Also, apparently, they're getting a bunch of new summons. So, all of that, I think, is enough to go ahead and land Man in the B tier. Marignon was C. They're now D. They really suffer from losing cross communions, as their Astral and Blood mages have different path access, and they have no troops that are going to be getting better from 5 to 6. They also lack the ability to punch through heavy armor, especially with my belief that heavy cav counters crossbows. Sure, you could say they have the halberdiers, but I don't think that those are that good of troops. In addition, they have no relevant National Blood in the earlier mid-game. And then Lifelong Protection, basically their biggest redeeming characteristics, has been significantly nerfed. Also, the side strategy of stacking attack and strength on the flagellants has gotten worse. Maybe there's going to be something out there to do as Marignon, but I'm going to 100% believe that they are old Satis tier, with just mediocre troops and mages. Who knows, though? Maybe quickness and flying flagellants will be the new meta. And, fire has gotten better, so maybe there's hope for them, but I really just don't think so. Next up, we have Mictlan. They were A tier. Now they are S. They're quite an interesting nation. They're sort of like an early age nation in the late age. Much of the heavy armor and weapons that define the age they lack. Anyway, it's kind of worse for them just to run attack and strength on their jags, but with the sheer variety of sacreds that they have and the greater flexibility of blesses, I am absolutely 100% positive that they can find something to work. Harder expansion is going to suck for them, but with National Blood being better and losing cross communions not really hurting them, maybe even helping as they have high blood and astral mages together, and buffs to fire and water and nerfs to anti-demon spells, I am pretty sure that altogether is going to be enough to bump them up a tier. All hail the Aussies. All hail Mictlan. I think Mictlan's going to be just great. So Midgard was A tier. Now they're going to go ahead and be in the B tier. They suffer quite a bit from losing cross communions, as they can't use their vulva as cheap slaves. As cheap slaves, or their Galdamen as turbo batteries for their vola. In addition to that, they have Sacred Light Cav, which has gotten quite a bit worse. Though it was already kind of Midgard, in the age of crossbows, in addition to their Cav thugs, which will be worse. Lastly, they have no National Blood, and only B1 for searching. This all combines, definitely, they're going to drop a tier. Next up, we have Pan. A tier, still A tier. I like Pangaea a lot. They just have a lot of things that are good and uncomplicated. Big Earth nature, yeah, you got it. One mage to research, communion slave, and master with. High map move, yeah, they have it. Seduction, yep. High accuracy crossbow, yep. Grape troops, whoop. Tramplers even, yeah, they have it. One interesting thing to consider is Pan will still have the old style heavy cav in the center cataphract, which, thanks to its low damage, is actually sadly probably going to be a little bit worse than a Dom 5, but the larger map size will make flanking very viable. Something I'm hoping for is that the center-eyed crossbow can move and shoot, as I don't see why they wouldn't be able to. If so, they will be one of the only two mounted crossbow, making kiting a hilarious and possibly viable strategy. This is going to be one of the first things I'm trying in Dom 6, just playing LA, Pangaea, massacring the center-eyed crossbow, and keeping them all on fire and keep distance. Sounds immensely fun. Also, the size changes might make things better for their tramplers, but truthfully, not too much is changing for Pangaea overall. They're still going to be great, though maybe slightly worse, as their non-Minotaurs have problems dealing with heavy armor, but I like them. They're great. If I have a beginner playing the late age, I recommend them Pangaea. Just great, solid overall nation. Palatia, however you say it. D tier, still D tier. They have great mages. It's only in its troops that they fall apart. However, their war elephants have 3 riders and will probably kick ass in expansion and early game. In addition, their sacred Nagas have Spirit Sight, are recruitable in caves, do poison damage, and fare okay against heavy cav due to their stun. All of those things you would think would make them an amazing sacred. However, they only have 5 protection, which is really a no-go when there's so many ranged units running around. Their heavier counterparts could be good with a weightless Bless, but they aren't really good enough to warrant a Bless, and they're not recruit anywhere, unlike, their lighter counterparts, which are recruitable in caves. Ultimately, I can't move Plautia up a tier, as their troops are still just too weak. But hey, now you might have a game plan around caves, capturing as much as possible, mass recruiting your Nagas there, fighting in caves. You can set up really well in there, and you're probably one of the 4 best nations in caves. So, yeah, you have that going for you now. Phlegra was D tier, now C tier. All hail the mighty Mouflon, the savior of this nation. No, realistically, your own capital and dominion fuck you, and you need some very gold-efficient mages and troops to make up for it. Thankfully, your mages aren't half bad, and fire and water are getting better. In addition, your already great Mouflon are shaping to be quite a poignant pick. Your biggest problem, which is the same as in 5, is that everyone knows you get super combatants around turn 35, so they'll rush you to make sure it doesn't happen. Anyway, the strength of your troops is enough to pull you up a tier, in addition to your mages being able to grant resources, so you can even get more heavy cav than other people. Yeah. Even though you're C tier now, you still have the same massive meta problem that you did before. So, I really can't see too many people winning games on Phlegra. But hey, if you can survive to, turn 35, turn 40, you'll have way more tools available to you then. Alright, next up we have Pythium. Was C tier, still C tier. I actually forgot Pythium when I did all my stuff, but, hey, they're here now. They're special because they have all 8 magic paths. Sadly, this is no longer going to be true with the addition of Glamour. The Sacred Heavy Cav Serpent Cataphract is already pretty good for expansion, and it should be looking even better with the Cav changes, as now riderless mounts and mountless riders are going to be pairing up after battle, instead of their riderless mounts just dying. But the real winner is that their Sacred Hydras and Hydra Hatchlings they're sacred. And since Poison provides a debuff, if you can fluff these Sacred Boys up to survive, the first 3 rounds or so of combat, after that, they can just whittle down their weakened opponents. Otherwise, your good tools are still good, and your shallow mage paths are still shallow, and Foul Vapors is going to come out a little bit later. All of this will keep them in the C tier unless their poison changes turn out to be very impactful due to their natural resistance and built-in bless. Raga was A tier, still A tier. Heat Raga is looking pretty spicy with the flying Sacred Heavy Cav. Their elephants and regular Heavy Cav are looking good too, though the lack of National Blood will hurt their mages. Even Cold Raga is looking good, with Ice Protection getting even better. With Fire and Water both looking better and an insane build flexibility, I am not worried about Raga at all, and maybe they could even be looking to go up a tier, though I really think that Raga lacks the umph to be S tier. But I could still be proven wrong. Relay was B tier. Everyone hated them. They had massive meta problems because no one wanted to fight them, but also no one wanted to let them be on land. Relay has gotten a rework. Don't know too much about it. Have not even heard how good the rework is, but I'm going to go ahead and stick them in B tier for now, but a lot of upside potential. Oftentimes, reworked nations are strong, but I really don't have the well, maybe I should put them in A tier. I heard the Mind Blast no longer has, limits. It's now fatigued based, but just going to go ahead and leave them in B tier for now. TNG. On my list, I actually have Tinchi in B tier. They were B tier. I'm actually going to go ahead and move them down to C tier. And there's a couple reasons for that. It is unclear just how heavy their heavy horsemen will be, but the model shows no armor, and this bodes poorly for your TNG. The good news is their bows do 2 more damage, and they can now fire while moving. They'll probably still be an amazing troop, but might want to play a little bit more standoffish role in Dom 5, maybe using fire and keep distance. Their mages are going to be losing Winds of Death, but Water is better, and Aerofend comes up later, so TNG will probably be just fine. Though Heavy Horsemen are probably going to, being worse, are probably going to result in them dropping a tier. In addition, their ancestors and stuff, their ethereal boys are actually going to be a little bit better, but they just relied so much on their troops that, yeah, I don't think they can stay B tier anymore. I'm sorry. Next up we have Ulm. Ulm was A tier, still A tier. They have they have the Black Templars, which were already a good option. They were just overshadowed by their amazing Scales troops and nice blood options. The Black Templars still might not be the ideal way to go, but by God, they will slap being Heavy Sacred Cav. They could possibly even do Hawkmeister Thug expansion and make it a non-meme build. Ultimately, though, not much is going to change for Ulm. Their troops are just too good to change the playstyle. Same with their counts. Even if crossbows are bad, the Rangers of Ulm will still do work in melee and are stealthy. The biggest issue is that their blood is going to fit a little bit worse into the nation. As to get the vampires and communions, you'll have to use matrices, and non-national blood is a little bit worse. Still, overall, they're a great nation, with one of the routes being a little bit worse and the other being a little bit better, so they're staying solidly in the A tier. Next up, we have Utgard, was A, still A. They're losing easy turbo communions with the Seth Kona and the Scrotty. That sucks, but individually, they're still both great mages. They have great troops. They can Hellbless. They can do, good Scales troops. They have just a lot of things going for them, a lot of flexibility. So they remain in the A tier. Vanheim was S tier, is actually going down to A tier. They have a lot of good tools, and in Dominions 5, that was enough to make them S tier. But sadly, all those tools are just a little bit worse. Their troops are going from 6 a square to 5 a square. Additionally, the Vehis are exceptionally vulnerable to evocations, lacking health, and being high density. So Evo buffs are actually going to hurt them exceptionally hard. Lastly, in terms of troops, most nations in the late age already go for heat, with heat capping out at 5. Though, that's a little bit more danger for your ice protection troops, which, you really do want to be using your Vedi Berserkers if you're not going heavy bless. Even with all that said, their troops are still going to be great, and their Moose Riders are going to be potentially exceptional, which is the other ranged mounted unit. If you didn't see, I put mounted in quote marks when I was talking about Pangaea's ranged mounted unit. But yeah, so maybe they can do fire and keep distance. Lastly, though, their blood at B1 off cap has gotten worse at searching in specifically, and worse at non-national blood in general. Lastly, in regards to their mages, they have quite eclectic paths, so losing cross communions is going to suck quite badly, as you already don't have dedicated slaves, and due to wide but low paths, communions were very useful for them. All things, while individually not that bad, I believe are going to bring Vanheim down from S tier to A tier. And lastly, but not leastly, we have Xibalba. Oopsie, I don't know why I don't want to say Vanheim again. Xibalba was C tier, now they're A tier. They can hide in caves. Woo! But starting in caves and having some choke points to defend is such a massive buff for Xibalba, it's insane. It's going to be so much harder to rush Xibalba down while they work up on building their blood economy. In addition, anti-demon stuff is worse while their blood is getting better. Lastly, having cave recruit mages and potentially... cave recruit mages potentially saves you on infrastructure, but they need temples, so again, perhaps not. Also, built-in magic weapons on sacreds is quite nice. I'm going to go ahead and put them in A tier, as I feel that the protection of having a cave layer gives them is enough to protect them in the early game, as they can get their even stronger blood online. If you're not next to someone who naturally can cave it up, you are absolutely goated now as Xibalba. And then lastly, we'll sort the tiers a little bit. Lemuria, yeah, Gath, yeah, feel comfortable with that. I guess it should be like this. Vanheim. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Ulm is just, yeah, Ulm's great nation. Vanheim's still strong. I do feel like Zabalba and Utgard are definitely the weakest of this tier. Excuse me. This is hard. Man, the new stuff is probably going to be pretty good. Actually, I'll put... I think the new stuff is going to be quite good for these three nations. Abysia, Bogarus, Kalem's quite good. Blizzards are going to be nice. Rithria, Yomi. I think Yomi and Midgard actually are on the dumps. Arco, Bogarus, Atlantis. Yeah, okay. I feel like this is pretty good for B tier. C tier, Tianchi, Pythium. You know what? Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. Marignon. Honestly, dude, I feel like Marignon's going to be the worst nation in the game. Yeah. All right. Overall, I feel pretty happy about that one. Yeah, thank you guys for sitting through this and listening with me. And, yeah, we'll see if I can get an MA1 out before the game's release. But, I doubt it. But, you know, hey, we'll try. And we'll go ahead, and when the game comes out, we'll do some Bless ideas and some other stuff like that. Yeah, thank you guys for listening, and see you later. Let me know what you think. Bye.